So we probably all know that language learning in school is very, very unsuccessful. The failure rate is above like 99%, and that nobody really becomes conversational or fluent in the languages they are learning, particularly in countries like Australia and probably America and England as well, where that people just don't really try at school that much anyway. And I think that does instill a lot of really poor learning kind of values in a lot of people. So in this video, we're going to talk about why learning a language in school doesn't work. And the reason I'm making this video isn't just to bag on school, but it's also to teach you, when you understand the reasons why it doesn't work, it's actually easier to learn a language because you know what you should be doing to make progress. So make sure you stick around to the end, because I'm also going to give you a few bonus tips on actually making your language learning journey easier, and overall you will make more progress. So let's go. Here is basically the situation when it comes to learning a language in school, and I put it into a picture so it's actually easy to understand. Here is you at the moment, and then here is you trying to learn a language through school. The reason this system of language learning largely doesn't work in most cases is because the way school works is it tries to push you through a one-size-fits-all system, and also a classroom learning system, which results in bugger all progress after years. It's also boring and it's not fun, and then you basically end up with frustration, or in a lot of cases, apathy. Apathy just means a complete lack of emotional caring, which is basically what I had in primary school. So I'll tell you a story right now. When I was in grade 5 or 6, which is in Australia, that's when you're about 10 to 12 years old, basically everyone had to do Japanese, whether they wanted to or not. But instead of packaging it as kind of a fun thing that was really good for you and it was super cool, it'd be a useful skill, it was basically just another subject that nobody could really see the point in. And obviously I've since gone on to learn languages and see the value in it, but at the time that none of that was taught. It was also taught very badly, and it wasn't fun at all. So what actually happened was you had a bunch of 11-year-olds in a room that didn't care about it because they didn't see the value in it. And basically, not only was the system for teaching quite bad, but the system is also a one-size-fits-all system, in that you basically sit down and you all have to do the exact same thing to learn a language, regardless of whether it fits your learning style. And we'll talk about learning style in a second, because that's extremely important for making progress. But the bottom line of that is, we basically made no progress in Japanese, although I did do a little bit more in high school, and I can say some things in Japanese. I don't speak it at all. I just know some basics from school. It basically resulted in complete apathy, where nobody did any work in primary school and we didn't really care. And our teacher basically gave up on us because we just didn't care. We just did nothing. People were busy throwing desks around. So that was the school that I went to. But yeah, basically, that is what it results in. And it's so important to understand that these are the reasons why, because a lot of people, what they do, not even just in language learning, but in learning in general, is that when they try and study something, for example, Italian or whatever, later in their life, they try and apply the same academic principles they used in school, without realizing that those principles are the reasons they didn't actually learn anything at all. So let's address what's behind the reason. Let's address what's behind school not actually being particularly good for you learning a language. Classroom learning is a terrible, terrible way to learn a language. I'm not saying there isn't. What is going on over here? I'm trying to move the bloody thing out of the way. It's not letting me. Sorry. It's going to cover a bit of the side, but oh well. Classroom learning, I won't say there is never a time for studying, because there absolutely is a time for studying parts of the language at a desk like I'm at now. However, it's a terrible way to go about just learning a language, full stop, for a few reasons. One, it's not similar to how anyone should learn or use a language. I'm a big believer in language. When you're learning something, you should try and replicate it as much as possible. If you're learning to play rugby, you shouldn't study it. You should go play the game with someone who can actually tell you what to do at any point in time. Same goes for board games, same goes for anything. You should actually be doing the thing. And we did very, very little of that in school. We did very little speaking. My teacher wasn't even a native Japanese speaker, which it's not too bad, but they didn't even bring native Japanese speakers in. Luckily, I had a friend who kind of was, so that was all right. But that doesn't count, because the education system didn't plan for that. So the second reason is that it also does. Oh, by the way, same with Duolingo. That's why Duolingo isn't a fantastic way to learn a language, because it's not similar to how you would actually use a language once you've learnt it. The second reason is it doesn't suit everyone's learning style, and this is incredibly important because through a variety of reasons, everyone's brain is different, and the way they actually learn things and lock them into their long-term memory is different. Maybe it's for the survival of the human species, so that not everyone will die if something bad happens, but Basically, everyone's brain works a little bit differently as far as learning things goes. And what that means is when you try and push everyone through a one-size-fits-all classroom taking notes system, some people actually do all right. They can make all right progress. A lot of people make zero progress at all. And that's not because there's anything wrong with them or because they're stupid. It's because that system of learning doesn't suit them. And they would be much better if they were actually doing stuff practically. They might be kinesthetic learners. They might do better with pictures and diagrams when in actuality they're just copying notes down, and that's not particularly useful. And the third reason is that it doesn't interest everyone, and this is actually really important for you to understand, which I'll elaborate on in a second. But if you're not interested in learning something, you don't have any motivation to learn it, it's very difficult to set yourself short-term tasks, particularly when you don't even enjoy those tasks, because there's no actual payoff and you don't enjoy it. And of course there's a million more reasons, but those are the few reasons why school doesn't really work for language learning, or a lot of things actually, but we'll focus on language learning right now. And yeah, so what can we actually learn from all of that? Because that's all well and good bagging on it, but how can we actually improve our ability to learn a language? So let's go through these things and talk about how you can actually use them to improve your language learning. Number one, you need to be doing things that you're actually going to do once you speak a language in the language you're learning. So you would be gobsmacked at how much stuff you can actually do right now, even though you might not speak the language you're learning particularly well. I guarantee you can use Google Translate at a bare minimum to put your daily habit tracker into a foreign language. If your habit tracker is, for example, 30 minutes of flashcards, 30 minutes of reading practice, something like that. You can literally put that into Google Translate, and then find out how to say it if you don't know how to say it, and then write it into your habit tracker. And every time you look at that, it's a little bit of exposure to the foreign language you're learning. And that's only one little thing, but those things add up over time. And that alone is an example of things you should be doing to actually make progress. You can do a gazillion different things to actually try and implement the language into your life. You can put your daily to-do list into the foreign language. You can put your calendar into the foreign language. You can do a bunch of different things. You can, I can't even list the amount of things you can do. Just find things you could put into the foreign language you're using, and then try and actually use it by talking to people. I've got a free Discord server below if you want to jump in, where you can find people that are actually learning the same language as you. But overall, taking notes at a desk being the only thing you're doing to learn a language will not result in you actually being good at it. You need to do things that people do, like watch movies, read books, etc., to actually improve your ability in the language you're learning. The second thing is that because it doesn't suit everyone's learning style, you need to actually do things that suit your learning style. So for example, if you learn better from looking at pictures, like you like little graphs that explain verb conjugation or whatever. By the way, if you don't know what that is, that's completely fine. I've got my course linked below if you want to check that out as well, for people who are serious about language learning. But if you do learn better from graphs and stuff, pictures for example, then you are likely a visual learner, and you need to implement more of that into your learning. When you're taking notes, you can have more graphs and stuff. If you're better at listening, you need to do more listening. And if you're better at writing, you need to do more writing. It's that simple. But a lot of people literally just do the same thing that they've always done, and it's not working for them. So just try doing something else after this video to actually learn a language. Try listening to someone explain something rather than write stuff down from a website, if that's what you normally do. And the third thing is maybe even the most important, but you need to make sure your motivation is locked in. So if you haven't done this before, I'd recommend you grab a book like this, or anything. It could be your language learning notebook if you already have one. Good on you if you do. Grab a pen as well, and basically I want you to write motivation in the middle of the page and write out any possible reason that you want to learn a language. It could be because of travel, it could be because of work, family, it could be because of ego. I don't care, nobody else is reading this. And you're basically filling a page with reasons that you actually want to learn a language. And this is super good, because this is way better than thinking it. Thinking it is nothing. Once you've actually put it out on the page, you are so much more motivated to learn a language, and you have a reason to push through when you actually don't feel like doing studying in the moment. So that's very important. The final thing I will say is make sure you're actually learning the language. You're not just studying the language. Studying the language is boring. Taking notes is boring, and it's not what you're going to do once you speak the language. So make sure you are consuming content, doing things you enjoy, immersion, and just increase your consistency as well. Make sure you're doing at least one thing every single day. It could be 10 minutes of watching a video, but everyone can do one thing every single day. But I've already kind of talked about that a bit, so hopefully that does make sense. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Definitely check out the course if you do want to learn a language, because there's so many problems stopping you from doing it right now, and you simply won't learn a language for a lot of you if you don't actually have someone helping you. So yeah, thank you for watching, and have a good one.